So Jerry Buss was the owner of the Lakers.
Right.
Dr.
You're in high
Buss.
school.
I'm in high school.
You get approved to interview the greatest owner.
Yes.
Right.
Up in his box during a game, with all these stars alongside, because that was the thing. You know, if you
Did you act like you was there before?
I tried to. You know, you have to.
Right, you have to.
But you have to
that's
be,
what I meant by
yeah.
that. Because really, if you become a distraction,
Right.
if you're like, you know, starstruck and you're bothering everyone.
Yes, exactly.
Right, you could be a distraction.
So I get led up to the box, you know, and I want to say that it was probably halftime, so I didn't interrupt him during the game. And
You remember who we were playing?
for some reason I'm thinking the Utah Jazz,
Okay.
but at that point it would be like Adrian Dantley and guys like that, like back in the day.
Right.
So they introduced me to him. He's like, "Oh, sit right here." You know, so I sat right next to him. I had my little tape recorder and everything like that, and I interviewed him. You know, and I don't remember the questions that I asked, but you know, so it wasn't until later, like I don't remember how long later it was, but I somebody from the Lakers that I was talking to, because I wanted to try to work there. I felt like, hey, that'd be a great job working in their public relations department. And I was able to talk my way into getting an internship, you know, out of high school with the Lakers. And as it turns out, the PR director said, hey, he goes, the day that you came and interviewed Dr. Buss, he was so impressed with this high school kid. What you were asking him, how you were handling yourself. He's like, hey, if there's ever anything that we can do, you know, so, and this is a lesson.
Right.
It really is a lesson.
No, and that's what I really like for people to hear, because you know it's not overnight. These things happen, and puts in a lot. You got to put in the work.
Yeah,
right?
and
you got to do it the right way. You got to do the right things.
Making a good impression.
And making a great impression. Right?
Making a good, you know, and sometimes you only get that one chance.
Most times you only have one chance. Right.
So whatever it was that I said, it's something, you know, struck in him, and it became pivotal for my career early on, because the owner of the Lakers knew who I was.
Right.
I mean, crazy. And
you covered them during those great years, right?
Yeah, it ended up leading to a job with the
leading
Lakers.
To that time, man, where they dominated for so long.
And which is, to me, has helped me in my career, seeing sports from an organizational standpoint, working, you know, literally alongside guys like Jerry West and Pat Riley and Magic Johnson, seeing these guys on an all the time basis. I mean, like during the summers, you get to work, and our office was at the Forum. That's where the Lakers played.
Right.
So our offices were at the Forum. In the mornings, you go to make your coffee in the coffee room, and there's Jerry West, and you're shooting the you know what with Jerry West. You know, like, and he was just a class act. Yeah. And I think being able to see that, the professionalism from everyone from Jerry West to Magic to Pat Riley to everyone that worked in that organization, Claire Rothman who ran the Forum, and the integrity, it just really struck with me, and it's something that I've tried.
From top to bottom.
Yeah, it was a class organization with class people, with smart people. I learned so much just listening to people like Jerry West, and who was so open and so nice. You know, like, it's Jerry West, for crying out loud. You know, and I'm like, holy cow! But then I realized he's a good dude, a good person, and it was great to see him work on a daily basis.
What's, like, if you could share like this one quick story, like that maybe like from like Magic Johnson, you know, there's somebody I looked up to, right? So you could share a story like maybe he impacted someone's life individually, or
well,
something.
it's ironic that you should mention that. There's many stories,
right?
But the story that always struck with me, and he told me at the time, and told us at the time, he never wants this to leave that room where we were.
Where it happened. Oh.
But it happened so long ago that it's okay now. So my job when I worked for the Lakers was after games, like a whole bunch of stuff, you know, before the days leading up to games, but after games, one of our jobs was we go down to the locker room and get quotes. Quotes.
Okay.
And then type them up really quick.
Right.
And then get it to the media, because you got to understand, a 7:30 game start. The writers, the media, they're going to be on deadline, and they don't always have time to go get quotes. They're writing their stories so they can meet deadline. and they need sometimes us to go get quotes from players that they don't have time to go get to. So our job was to go get quotes, type them up, and then distribute them to the media. So I go down to the locker room, do my thing for that night, come up to our office, the public relations department. I'm typing out on a typewriter, but believe it or not, I'm typing out the quotes. All of a sudden, get a call.
You got the phone call.
Lakers public relations.
Okay.
On the other end, this guy starts talking about how he's just in a desperate place in his life. He's at the end, and he's thinking about committing suicide.
Oh wow.
And I'm trying to, like, oh my gosh, like this is trying to talk about, hey, are you okay? Come on, and he called the Lakers. Like, why was he calling the Lakers? He wanted to see if he could talk to Magic Johnson.
To Magic Johnson, right?
He literally he's like,
he specifically asked, I want to speak to Magic Johnson.
I'm like, well, I mean, like I can't make any guarantees,
right?
But
yeah.
So I go, if you could just hold on, let me see what I can do. And he was still in the locker room getting dressed after the game. I go down there, run down there,
wow.
And I say,
happened was still
he was still there
at the facility.
And I was like, I kind of pulled him aside, and I was like, Magic,
It's the
the
situation,
guy he's like, I'll be right there.
Just like that.
I'll be right there. He comes up, and the way it worked was on office phones, so I could listen in.
Oh, right. Several people can be on the line.
I'm listening in, and Magic gets on the line for like a good 15 minutes to talk. What are you going through? What's going on? Talk to me, man. What's this? And he talked him out of what he was
doing what he was
about to do. Right. To the point where the Magic said, "Hey, look, we're headed out of town tomorrow to go play. I think it was the Seattle Supersonics at the time. I'll be back on Thursday. Why don't you give me your number? I'll call and check in on you," which he did. And he literally
talked this man.
Maybe saved his life.
Yeah,
really, let's be honest.
Who knows? Maybe he has children, he has a wife, and saved the whole family, right?
And so
having
they wrap up the phone call. Thank you. I'm gonna thanks. And so that everyone gets hung up. Magic stands up, and there's about 4 or 5 of us there. And Magic said, "Hey guys, this doesn't leave this room right here." And that was 30 some odd years ago, so I could talk about it now. I ended up writing a story about it years later, but
wow, something like that, and that
right?
most people don't know about, right? Like the things that they do, right? The things he's done,
right?
Outside of playing the game,
right?
Wow, that's awesome, man. Especially because I looked up to him, and now to hear him taking the time to go out of his way to help someone save their life.
Yeah, and for my money, Michael Jordan's obviously probably the best ever. But if I was starting a franchise to this day,
Magic,
I would start with Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson came into the NBA at 20 years old.
Right. I think he was the most dominant player ever. Like people talk about most dominant, and he's what, 6'9"?
6'9", powerful.
Yeah.
That first year they win a championship, and in Game 6 in Philadelphia, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sprains his ankle in Game 5, can't play in Game 6 in Philadelphia. The Lakers are up 3-2, I think it was. And so Magic has to carry the load. He has to start at center. He scored 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists at 20 years old. 20 years old. You think about that for a second. And won the championship against Dr. J, Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney, Daryl Dawkins. That was a stat.
Right. Yeah.
They beat the Celtics and Larry Bird to get to the finals.
To get there, right?
So anyway, but yeah.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.